Hey guys, thank you so much for sending in your questions. We are now going to answer a few of those, and feel free to send your questions at the website, Ty and That Guy. And the first question is, Becky Tsai asked, two-part question. I was wondering if Wes can give us an update of what he thought of the rest of WandaVision 2. Captain Holden mentions how everything is split evenly 4 ways, and I'm also assuming money. How does the Rossi make money to generate income? It seems like every time they settle down, they run into trouble or are sent on another mission. So what I thought of WandaVision, that was I finished that a little while ago, so I have to ramp up my memory. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun concept. I've spoken about this before on the program. When I was growing up, if I was aware of comic books, I would have been a comic book guy. But because, for whatever reason, I just didn't have any, it just wasn't around. I just didn't have any friends that read it or whatever. I got into other things. I got into movies and TV and all that stuff. So I don't know much about the comic history of WandaVision. So everything that I'm watching from WandaVision is all new to me. So I've really enjoyed the concept. I thought it was a lot of fun. It reminded me of a Twilight Zone. The setup of a Twilight Zone. I loved having these sitcoms with this through line sadness underneath it, and I thought that was brilliant. And I enjoyed the end. And when it started getting superhero-y, I thought it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. But the first half of WandaVision was what I really liked.
I'll answer the second part. So we get into this more in the books than we do in the show. But when people are asking the Rossi to go do things, they are paying them. Fred Johnson pays the Rossi crew to do a couple of missions for him. Avasarala funds them for several missions using her position and the money she has access to. And in season 3, we have Monica and her documentary team. They talk about the fact that they are funding the Rossi's journey out to the ring to get their documentary shot. So people do pay the ship, pay for use of the ship, and pay the crew. We just don't spend a lot of time talking about how that works. They do make money from these various things, because you have to just keep the ship in operation. You have to make some income.
This question is from Shaun Parker, but not that Shaun Parker, from the historic Fox lot. You can see the Die Hard building. That's usually where I work. My question is for Wes. In Season 2, Episode 1, in the Galley of the Rocinante, we see Miller and Amos have a fight. Well, we really can't call it a fight, can we? Now, this is the first time that we see Amos, out of 2 times, activated. And that eye twitch, man, to show the white all the way around is badass. And I'm just wondering, did you do that in the moment, or was that a little acting bit that you had tucked away like, oh shit, that's totally awesome, I can use that somewhere else?
Okay, before you answer, Wes, I would like to point out that building is called Nakatomi Plaza, not the Die Hard building. So I don't know where the fuck this guy's getting his names from. But anyway, talk about the white
I'm with
eyes.
Shaun Parker. That's the Die Hard building. Every time I drive by or I explain it,
it's the Nakatomi Plaza.
I'm like, turn left at the Die Hard building. I hear you, Shaun Parker. I do, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoy the question. I enjoy the scenery that you that you had in it. The answer to your question is, I think a lot of things happen on a subconscious level, and then they kind of come out later. And what I realized when I watched it, so my dad, when my dad would get real pissed off when we were growing up, that's the look that he had on his face. And I remember going back and watching that scene, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's my dad. Like, that's the look that my dad used to get on his face. And there's another thing. I remember I was doing this movie called Husk, and it was with my good pal Brett Simmons, this horror movie. And my grandmother, when we were younger, she would she lived way out. She had a bunch of land. We lived way out in the woods with her, and we would spend the summers with her, and we would sit on the back porch, and the sun's going down in the summer. She would tell us, I loved ghost stories, so she would tell us all these she was a great storyteller, tell these great ghost stories. And always, every night, she would have a moment where she act like she didn't know who we were. And she would be, and it freaked me out, and it worked every time. But when she did, she would have this expression on her face where she would kind of turn like, "Who are you, little boy?" Like that, and it would just freak me out. And so I went back and I was watching Husk, and when I get possessed in the movie, and when I was possessed, I was doing what my grandmother used to do to freak me out. And you don't know it at the time, but you go back and like, that's what my grandmother did. When her eyes would come out and she would look, trying to understand who I was, and like genuinely trying to struggle of who I was and why I was in her house. And it would, at first it'd be like, and then she would stick with it until it scared the shit out of me. So that's a great question. And I think, subconsciously we always kind of file away like interesting things that we see from people, and it just comes out later on. Thanks, Shaun Parker. I like the video questions. Keep them coming.
All right, David he's wondering about the scene where Uncle Mateo takes off his visor and pulls some stringy thing out of his helmet just before he entered the ship again. So first, how realistic is that? I don't recall what he was facing, but without any protection, he would get sunburned pretty quickly. Also see he was taking a deep breath before opening his helmet, which is a no-go. Okay, so there's several misunderstandings in this question. First of all, he does take a deep breath because you do want to hyperoxygenate your blood before you do this. But throughout the entire thing, when his visor is open, he is exhaling. You may not have noticed it. You may have not have heard it, but he is doing one long exhale the entire time because you want to let the air get out of your lungs. He's not holding his breath. And two, I don't remember if he was facing the sun or not. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're facing directly into the sun, if your visor comes up, you would get the sunburn. But mostly what this is, I mean, his visor's only open for a couple of seconds. And the truth is, without, the sun blasting you in the face, and they're pretty far out too. They're out in the asteroid belt when this happens. A couple of seconds of exposure to vacuum is going to do almost nothing to you. As we've talked about other times, we have actual laboratory evidence of what happens to people when they're subjected to a vacuum. NASA accidentally put one of their technicians in a vacuum for almost a minute. And other than passing out, as soon as he was reoxygenated, as soon as the pressure was brought back up, he had no long-term effects from that. So part of what Narain wanted to do with this scene is show the casualness with which belters deal with vacuum, that they've spent generations of people living out in space. Vacuum is not terrifying to them. It's not a terrifying thing. He knows that if he spends a couple of seconds in vacuum, it's not really going to do anything to him. He knows he has to exhale to make sure his lungs don't take any damage. But other than that, it's not going to be any long-term effects. And it's just that casualness. And the truth is, that's pretty realistic. If you expose yourself to a few seconds of vacuum, as long as you're not trying to hold your breath, you're going to be fine.
I think it's a really interesting answer. And I think I wanted it to kind of be out there because there's a really great logical question to answer his thing. And I think that's one of the neatest things about the Expanse, because how neat would it be to feel what space would feel like, to be able to feel it for a couple of seconds. It's pretty damn cool, I think. And also, I always thought your head would explode like Arnold Schwarzenegger and when he's on Mars, and he's like,
or people exploding in Outland.
Yeah, Outland. Those are the best, dude. The fucking best exercises.
By the way, that building is Nakatomi Plaza, and you're just I've never heard you be so wrong.
Clint,
Wes.
do you call that Nakatomi Plaza or do you call it Die Hard Building?
It's Nakatomi Plaza.
I listen, it is Nakatomi. Two things can be true. It's called Nakatomi Plaza, and it was in the Die Hard movie.
But it's called Nakatomi Plaza in the Die Hard movie.
I know that.
That's how they always refer to it.
I know that.
Shots fired at the Nakatomi Plaza.
But instead of sifting through the people that would actually know Nakatomi Plaza or Die Hard, you just know that they're going to know Die Hard. So it's like, yeah, it's right by the Die Hard building. Or, you're going down, is it Pico? Yeah, you're going down Pico right before the Fox lot, yeah. So if you go down, you'll see.
Okay, except that for me, if I say Nakatomi Plaza and somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about,
should be hanging out
I
with
don't care about that person. Yeah, and so they can fuck off.
That's a good point.
Right?
If you don't know what Nakatomi Plaza is, we're not friends any fucking way. You know, and if you represent me, you're
Right.
not going to represent
That's
me
exactly
anymore.
right.
Yeah.